Hello guys, welcome to another recap video hosted by yours truly. Today's pick is a live-action adaptation of a popular Japanese manga. The film was split into two parts and I'm gonna be covering the first half called Parasyte Part 1. Be warned that a spoiler alert is in effect, so proceed with caution. Alright then, let's check this out. The movie begins with a narration commenting on the impact of the human population on the world, and then we see parasite-type beings surfacing in Japan. These parasites infect humans by entering their brain and taking control of their consciousness. One of these parasites tries to infect our lead, Shinichi Izumi. However, he's listening to music on his earphones, so it is unable to enter. It tries entering through the nose, but Shinichi wakes up and fights it. The parasite enters his hand and makes its way to the brain, but Shinichi restricts it by tying his earphones around his arm. This causes the parasite to dissolve inside his hand. Shinichi's mother, Nobuko, checks in on him and he tells her what happened, but she doesn't believe him. The next day, Shinichi feels weird in his hand, but Nobuko pays it no heed. Then we see one of the victims turn into a monster and eat his wife. This happens with every infected human. In school, Shinichi's hand weirdly touches his girlfriend Satomi, and he also notices that he is able to stretch his hand and even pull off impossible basketball shots. Later at home, he notices an eye on his hand and tries to cut it out, but it transforms into a monster and then into a sentient being. The parasite says he failed to eat Shinichi properly and was only able to infect his hand. They decide to call him Migi, and he proceeds to learn the ways of the world, as do the other parasites. The next day, Migi drags Shinichi along with him to meet the real brain eaters, as they can sense each other's presence. They come across an infected chef who has just finished eating a victim, and he is disgusted to learn about what's going on with Migi and Shinichi. The chef tempts Migi to join him, and after some consideration, Migi protects Shinichi and kills the chef. Shinichi is thankful, but Migi says he's doing it for himself because he'll die if Shinichi dies. Shinichi wants to expose Migi and the other parasites, but Migi argues that his friends are just eating humans for nutrition, similar to how he is digesting Shinichi's blood or how humans eat plants and animals. He also threatens to hurt Shinichi if he doesn't cooperate. The next day at school, Migi senses a parasite near them, and it turns out to be the new teacher, Ryoko Tamiya. She spots Shinichi and identifies him as the one infected with Migi. They confront her later in school and she notices Satomi. Ryoko suggests meeting at another location, and Migi agrees because he is intrigued to learn how she's living like a human and studying them. They meet Ryoko in an aquarium with two other parasites, a cop named Mr. A and a student named Shimada. Ryoko talks about making a network so that the parasites can eat and live in peace on this planet, but Shinichi isn't too keen on the idea. Ryoko also reveals that she's pregnant with Mr. A's kid, but the child is human despite having parasite parents. This makes her question their purpose in the world, and she wants to study humans in order to find answers. She threatens to kill all the kids at school, including Satomi, if Shinichi gets in her way, but she promises not to cause a mess during her research. Despite Ryoko being more cooperative and understanding, Mr. A is aggressive towards Shinichi and Migi. Shinichi worries about what might happen to Nobuko and asks her to step out less often. She suspects something and asks what's bothering him, but he leaves abruptly. Later, he tells Migi about an incident where his mom hurt her hand while trying to save him. Migi is fascinated by selfless human behavior and is unable to understand it as he only values his own life. At night, they meet Mr. A and Migi senses a strong killing intent from him. They run away, but he chases after them. They eventually fight, and while Migi keeps him busy, Shinichi closes in and impales him with a rod, after which they escape. However, Mr. A is still alive, although he needs a new body now. Unfortunately, Nobuko happens to be passing by and finds him on the floor. He uses this opportunity to attack and infect her. At home, Migi senses Mr. A's presence and warns Shinichi, so they prepare to take him on, but they're surprised to see Nobuko entering the house. Migi tries to warn Shinichi that this is Mr. A and not his mother, but he gets emotional and begins to cry in denial. The infected Nobuko uses this chance to pierce his heart, supposedly killing him in the process. Nobuko tells Migi that he will die along with Shinichi and leaves. But then Migi enters Shinichi's body and manages to cure his wound by transferring his own cells to Shinichi's heart, thus covering up his wounds. Shinichi wakes up after some time, but is totally devastated by his mom's death. Satomi visits to meet him as he was absent from school for a few days, but he ignores her and runs away to meet Ryoko. He confronts her about Mr. A killing his mom, but she reveals that she had nothing to do with it and doesn't even know where Nobuko is. Shinichi threatens her and she prepares to attack him, but then she notices something interesting, as both Migi and Shinichi synchronize their movements to take her on. She leaves them alone for now because she feels that they will help her greatly with her research. Meanwhile, the cops continue their investigation into the murders and reason that the killer cannot be human. Migi and Shinichi pass by a procession and see the new political candidate, Takashi Hirokawa, running for office. Migi points out that he is infected, so Shinichi realizes that the parasites are now aiming to take over the world, so that they can kill and eat on their own terms. The cops visit Shinichi at home and interrogate him regarding the murder of the cop who was Mr. A's first vessel. Luckily, they leave before Migi loses his patience with them. The next day at school, Satomi introduces Shinichi to Shimada, who is the new transfer student at their school. Shinichi is upset and acts aggressively against Shimada. They shake hands, and while Shimada thinks he can hurt Shinichi, he is surprised to learn that his body has become stronger now. He takes this information with him to Ryoko, and they conclude that Shinichi's body is changing because of Migi's cells that repaired his heart. Migi and Shinichi have the same conversation at home, and then Migi reveals that he has to sleep for 4 hours a day because of this. But the catch is that he can't be woken up during that time, and he also won't be able to know when it will happen. Back at the station, the cops find a way to identify the parasites from their hair, but one of the forensic members also happens to be a parasite, and he informs Ryoko and Takeshi about it. Shinichi spends time with Satomi, and they find a dead puppy on the road. Shinichi doesn't show much regard for it, and this makes Satomi upset, so she leaves. This makes him realize that his personality is slowly turning into that of Migi's. At school, Ryoko has to quit her job because of her pregnancy, and her parents are notified about this. They come to visit her, but after a brief conversation, she kills them without hesitation. She does feel guilty and meets with Shinichi and Migi in the school lab to tell them that their problem can be solved if they stop eating human meat. She has already started phasing it out of her diet and is working on doing the same with the others. Meanwhile, Shimada models for art class at the request of the girls. Satomi joins the class, but then one of the girls plucks Shimada's hair and he is exposed as a parasite. He transforms in front of them and the girls scream. Shinichi and Migi notice this and rush towards the scene. Satomi throws some acid on Shimada. This seems to hurt him and he also loses control of his body. But then he goes on a killing spree and murders all the girls in the class except for Satomi. Shinichi panics when he sees all the dead bodies, but Migi calms him down and they move forward. Shimada finally locates Satomi and injures her as she tries to flee. He is about to kill her, but Shinichi and Migi drop by to stop him. They fight for a bit, but then Ryoko appears to see what's going on. Shimada says that he can't go back to his human form because of the acid, so she tries to kill him with a chemical explosive. Shinichi rescues Satomi and rushes her to the ambulance, but Shimada survives the blast and kills the cops who investigate the scene. Migi senses his presence again and he helps Shinichi kill him by turning into a bow that allows him to fire a rod that impales and kills Shimada. Ryoko meets them and says that she'll disappear for a while because of the people she has killed. She plans to use her child for experiments, but only because she wants to know where mothers get their strength from. She gives them A's location and leaves. They find Nobuko and follow her to an isolated area, but Migi falls asleep. Before disappearing, he transforms into a weapon so that Shinichi can fight A. He manages to use his new abilities to put up a good battle, but A tricks him by imitating his mother's voice. However, when he goes for the kill, the real Nobuko is able to take back control of her consciousness momentarily. This allows Shinichi to kill A, but it also means that his mother is dead for good now. Takeshi is elected into power and special forces are brought in to investigate the Parasyte murders after Shimada's body is found. We're back to the first scene now as Ryoko debates what might happen if the human population were to reduce. She's shown to be with Takeshi and a mysterious parasite named Goto, who believes in ending mankind once and for all. Meanwhile, Shinichi and Migi visit Satomi at the hospital. Shinichi decides that his purpose in life is to kill all the parasites one by one. However, the movie ends with a mysterious figure taking pictures of him talking to Migi. And there you go everyone, that was the first part of Parasyte. Let me know if you want me to cover the sequel as well. I'm also open to other movie suggestions, so don't be shy to speak your mind. Like, share and subscribe to stay updated on all my latest videos and stay tuned for more exciting recaps. See you later!